Welcome to the 1B.1 conjugation of the verb être note set. We're going to be learning to put simple sentences together in French, starting with subjects and verbs. Definition of a subject is what you see on this slide. It's the person or thing that carries out the action of the sentence. The verb expresses the action. In our sample, le professeur parle français, the professor speaks French. Le professeur is the subject, and speaking French, parle français, is the verb. On this slide, you see a sample of every single subject pronoun that exists in English and its French counterpart. The chart is divided into two parts. You have the singular side always on the left, and that will be consistent throughout your French learning, and the plural side on the right. Just like English, there's first, second, and third person singular, and also first, second, and third person plural. For I, you have the French subject pronoun je, which is not capitalized. For you informal, you have the French subject pronoun tu. For he or the masculine it, you have il. For she or the feminine it, you have elle. Own is slightly tricky because we don't have one specific translation in English, we have several. So it can mean one, but it can also be general they or we. On the plural side, you have nous, which means we, vous, which is the plural form of you, so we do say y'all, and il and elle plural, which both mean they for different groups. Il plural is they masculine or a mixed group, and elle plural is they feminine. When the subject is a mixed gender group, you use the masculine form. This picture shows a girl and a guy dancing together, and by default in French, you use the masculine form. So, ils dansent très bien, you would not use elle plural. In this picture, you also have a guy and a girl, and the sentence saying they are from Dakar, you've used il plural because it's a mixed gender group. There are two words that mean you in French. There's tu and there's also vous. For tu, we kind of have a little acronym. This is FFPP, so friends, family, pets, and peers. And you see the definition of what a peer is if you're not sure. And vous is used for all adult strangers, people with a title, and also you plural, or as we've been saying, y'all. This slide shows substitution shortcuts. This is something that really, by the time that you get to the end of this unit, you will need to have these memorized. You will always need to know this going forward as well. So this is a very basic skill. And you really should use this slide or this part of your notes when you're first doing this, just so you have enough experience trying to make these substitutions. The subject pronoun je and also the subject pronoun tu cannot be substituted. You can't do it in English, you can't do it in French. However, to get il singular, you might be substituting one male's name or one masculine item. In an earlier unit, you learned about masculine nouns having le in front of it. If your noun has le in front of it, it's going to equal il singular at the end of the day. Elle singular could be one female's name, like Marie, or also one feminine item. So for example, if you see a noun that has la in front of it, then it's going to equal elle singular. Own is another one that can't be substituted. Nous is anything or anyone plus the word moi. So even in English, you and me equals we. So vous is anything or anyone plus the word toi. Bob and you is going to equal you plural or y'all. Il is the most complex one because it has three things. It could be more than one male. It could be more than one male item. And it could also be a mixed gender group. With elle plural, you could have more than one female or more than one feminine item. This part is the conjugation of the verb être. All of the subject pronouns from the previous slides are here on this chart, and this verb être is now being conjugated. In English, you would never say I be, you be, he be, etc. You conjugate it to make I am, you are, he, she, it is, etc. So in French, you have equivalents of that on this chart. The singular ones are all to the left, the plural ones are all to the right. The definition of conjugation is changing the verb to go with the subject, and the word être is called the infinitive because it's the most basic form of a verb. In English, it always has the little word to in front of it. In 1A.1, you learned a little bit about c'est and ce sont. These are conjugations of the verb être, which are now coming back into play. You use c'est or ce sont before a noun to say what something is. So an indefinite article or a definite article would be going before the noun, except for with a name. It's a telephone. These are pictures. That's Amina. So est and also sont are different forms of the verb être. Il and la and il or elles sont also have differing uses depending on what has already been mentioned. Any noun that follows directly should not have an article. And for example, we have voilà Monsieur Richard, il est professeur. Here is Mr. Richard, he is a teacher. For some reason in French, we really don't know why, people's professions, including being a student, does not take an article. So you would never say il est un professeur or il est le professeur. Simply il est professeur. Here's the library. It's a masterpiece. Is voici la bibliothèque. Elle est chef d'œuvre. The L here is used because you're talking about the library, not a person. Me, I'm a student. So student again is like your profession. There's no article. Section D, the subject pronoun own. Here's a little bit more of an example. It's used when the subject is vague or unknown. So in English, you might hear us say things like one. One would think that that's a good idea, etc. The royal we is kind of like when two people are saying something, but only one person is really saying it, and the other person is saying, oh yes, the royal we think that this is happening. It's a longer story. Ask Madame. They, for example, they say it's going to rain today. And also you for giving directions. You put the egg in the bowl, you put the cheese in the bowl. The samples below give you a little bit more of an idea of what that looks like in English and then again in French. And that's the end of the note set.